Hey, thanks for coming back to the chopping block. So, OpticsPlanet contacted me about a sort of partnership. They want to give me cool stuff to test in exchange for posting links to their site and coupon codes and whatnot. So, being who I am, I'm not likely to turn down free stuff. They sent me this, the Lucid HD7 red dot. I gotta admit that I'm a little conflicted about it. For one thing, it's really, really heavy. It's a pretty big sight that is obviously trying very hard to look like an ACOG with a sort of tapered body to it and all that. It's got a whole lot of features, and that's where I start to get kind of conflicted. On the one hand, hey, it's great, there's cool stuff, it does a lot of different things, that's kind of neat. Some of the things that it does are really useful, and some of the things are a little less useful. And I feel like it might be a better idea for it to include only certain features, and for you to purchase a site that has the features that you want. If they wanted to have other features, they should, in my opinion, have other product lines, other models that would allow you to purchase exactly the features that you want without extra features that you're not going to use. That said, let's go through some of the stuff that it does. So this big huge knob here on the side is not the brightness adjustment, but it changes the type of reticle that it displays, and I'll show some pictures of the reticle types here in a second. This little tiny, almost looks like an LED, is actually a light sensor to automatically adjust the brightness of the reticle in auto adjust mode. See, when you turn it on, you can just turn it on by pushing the button, I think. Is that right? You push and hold it to turn it off, and yes, you push it to turn it on. If you push it again, it'll flash a couple of times and it'll go to either auto adjust or manual brightness adjust. Like all auto adjusting sites, in the automatic mode, it has difficulty shooting from a dim area to a bright area. So if you're standing inside and shooting out into brightly lit sunlit area outdoors, the reticle will be too dim. Or if you have it mounted on your home defense rifle and all of the lights in the house are off and you're using a weapon mounted light, the reticle might be a little too dim for you. They compensate for that by allowing you to just manually adjust the reticle, and you can't manually adjust the reticle in auto adjust mode. You have to switch the mode and then change the brightness. Having both options probably is a good idea, because auto adjusting sites usually work fine most of the time, except for those places where they don't work. Not a bad idea to be able to adjust it in those circumstances. The types of reticle that it has are kind of useful. I think that's a place where it would be better to have one reticle type, maybe even a reticle where you can turn on or off elements of the reticle, kind of like the HoloSun does. But having several different reticle types to choose from all on one site, I think it just adds weight and bulk in this extra knob on the side that isn't that necessary. The site's very heavy. I don't know if the manual lists exactly what the weight is. Yeah, 13 ounces. Well, there's 16 ounces in a pound, so that's nearly a pound. That's pretty heavy. It's substantially heavier than my ACOG, EOTech, Aimpoint Comp ML3. I don't have any sight that's as heavy as this is. I think the only sight I've ever held that's heavier is an all-steel tube IOR Valdata way back in the day. One of the features that I like about it is that it takes AAA batteries. I'm getting real tired of sites that take weird non-standard batteries like CR2032 or the CR123s and stuff that you have to go to a drugstore or something to get a battery for, that you probably don't just have sitting around in your fridge. When the sight's off of the mount, it's pretty easy to change the battery, remove the battery cover, and get another one in there. There are nice O-rings on all of the screw caps and whatnot, so hopefully it'll be waterproof. We'll find out here in a minute. When the sight's mounted on a rail, it's a lot more difficult to line up this cap with the threads and start screwing it back down. It's kind of a minor nitpick, but I feel like this could have been designed a little better. Maybe if they had moved this entire base a little bit forward with this a little bit backward, it'd be a little easier to get your fingers around there while it's mounted on the rail. Another thing that's a little bit annoying is that it comes with this mount and this mount only. It doesn't have a sort of standard mounting base that could fit on another better quick detach mount like a LaRue or something. And that's a big minus in my book. I don't like these screw mounts at all. If the sight fails, if it gets mud on it, if it gets cracked, whatever, I want to be able to take the sight off quickly and easily and move to my irons and not have to worry about re-zeroing the sight when I put it back on. One of both the sort of a positive and a negative at the same time is that I felt like this sight would make a lot more sense if it were a 2-power sight rather than a straight red dot. That said, they offer a 2-power magnifier that screws directly into the ocular lens, so you can make it a 2-power, and I think it's like $25, $30. Pretty reasonable if it works well. I don't have that part, so I can't comment on it. You can also screw a kill flash in the front there. Overall, it seems to be a fairly well-made sight. I've only shot it a little bit so far. I will definitely be testing it a lot more, and if it fails or whatever, I'll let you know. For now, the manual says that this is waterproof, but it doesn't say to what standard or depth or anything. So go ahead and put it in there, which is a little less than 12 inches of water. And we'll talk about the bullet drop compensator reticle while it sits there and soaks for a minute or so. If it was IP67 standard waterproofing, then it should be able to go down at least 1 meter for at least 5 minutes. So this will come nowhere near the IP67 standard. So, like I said, I'll take some pictures of the reticle, but those are the reticle styles that you can choose from, and you can see there that 2 of them have a sort of ballistic drop compensator built in. The hash marks or dots, depending on the reticle that you choose, are at 10 meters at 10 MOA below the center reticle and 20 MOA below the center reticle for both the styles. What that translates to, using Hornady's ballistic calculator, was that with a 75 grain Purvey Partisan, or for that matter with 75 grain Hornady bowtail hollow point, both about the same ballistic coefficient, out of a 16-inch barrel, you're looking at about 400 yards for the first hash mark and 600 yards for the second hash mark. If you were using M855 from a 16-inch barrel, it'd be about 475 and 675, respectively. Obviously, the amount of drop is dependent on the ammunition you're using, your barrel length, and all that sort of thing. So you'll have to look up what sort of come-ups you're getting for your ammunition, but those are fairly reasonable ranges for it to estimate, and the fact that they included the minute of angle offset there, I think is a nice feature. Maybe in the future I will take it to the range and confirm that it is in fact 10 inches down at 100 yards and 20 inches down at 100 yards, and ensure that the MOA offset that they say it is actually is that. I imagine that this is probably soaked in there long enough, so we'll go ahead and get it out of here and dry it off and see if it's still working properly. still on, it's still bright. And I'm not sure if you can see the reticle in the video, but there it is. With the hollow sun that I tested a little while ago, the sight worked just fine when I took it out of the bucket, and then a few minutes later after I was cleaning up, it stopped working. So if this stops working in a few minutes or a few hours or a few days, I will be sure to let you know before I post this video. Otherwise, so far it seems to be a pretty well made sight. It's a little heavy, it's a little bulky, but otherwise a fairly decent deal for the price. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I've got some coupon codes and links and whatnot. I'll put those in the description. As always, liking, sharing, subscribing helps out a great deal. It helps out any YouTube channel, but it makes it an especially big difference for small channels like mine if you can get out there and share the video on social media. Again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.
You got